So I'm going to flip over to Plan It Together here. Now, I'm going to start really simple, and then we'll build up data on top of this and kind of have fun with it. So in Plan It Together, this is what it looks like. There's a main toolbar with some functions that we'll go over in a little bit. The main screen, kind of the main view that most people like to look at, is the Gantt view, which is what you're seeing kind of on the left side of the screen here. We'll talk about this side in a second, but this is a list of jobs that we have in our system. We only have one job in our system right now, and we're going to talk about that one job. So yeah, in our make-believe facility here, we are looking at a chemical plant. They produce some pellets, some resin pellets, all right? So on the left-hand side here, we have your resources, mixer 1 and 2 and pelletizer 1 and 2. And you can have as many resources as you want in the system, but in this case, there's 4. Across the top here is the calendar. So, we're looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can zoom out as far as you want, and zoom in as far as you want. You can plan out as far as you want. There is no limit. So yeah, there's really no limits in the system. It's really all kind of data dependent. What we see on the Gantt here, and we'll talk about these other green lines in a second, but what we see on the Gantt are a couple rectangles. These represent operations within a job. All right, so I'm going to click on this mixer operation. And I'm just going to zoom into this a little bit. So what we see here is, we know we have one job, WOSO5 is the job name. It has 2 operation steps. We have a mixing step and a pelletizing step, all right? You'll notice a blue line between them. That shows operation succession, all right? So these 2 operations are linked with each other. And that's really nice because if I move, I'm going to show you a little drag and drop here. If I move my mixer operation out in the schedule to Wednesday, it's going to automatically push my pelletizing operation out, okay? Same goes for if I try to move my pelletizing operation in, well, it's not going to let me. It's constrained, all right? So Plan It Together is constraining that operation. It's not going to let me run it forward unless I move mixer out of the way, and then I can move my pelletizing operation up to it, just like that, okay? Pretty simple stuff. A couple other things before we get into the colors and all that. You'll notice Plan It Together is set up with capabilities. All right, I don't think capabilities are foreign to anybody, but in this case, my operation step here needs a mixer, and you'll notice by these little green arrows, Plan It Together is telling me that both of these mixers are capable of running this operation. So I can drag this from mixer 1 to mixer 2, no problem. I can drag it up there, no problem. If I try to put it on a pelletizer, well, it's not going to let me, right? It says it's missing the capability of mix on the pelletizer. So why is that important? Well, it's important because Plan It Together knows all this information up front and can now place these jobs on the schedule for you where they optimally need to be scheduled. All right. So a couple more things. One of the questions we have is, how do we control our shift schedules, like when work can be done, that sort of thing. When is a machine online? When is it offline? So that's one of the pieces of data that's usually managed and planned together. A lot of the other data is just imported in from data sets you already have from your ERP. But I can, I'll show you here, we call them capacity intervals, and I'm just going to make them big for a second just so we can see them. But you'll notice I've got first, second, third shift on every resource here. Now these can be highly customized any way you want. You'll notice they stop here on Saturday and Sunday. They don't run. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, it means that I can't do work. I can only do work on these green shifts. I can't do work on the basically the offline time where there is no shift. So for example, if I take this pelletizer operation and I try to put it where there is no green time, what it does is it just pushes it to the next available time. Okay, simple as that. Let's pretend for a second that kind of a scenario here. Maybe I know on Friday, third shift, we're not going to be able to run mixer 1. Okay, so it's really easy to change this to an offline time. I can open the shift, You'll see all the kind of the fun stuff you can do with it. You can set up recurrences Monday, each day of the week for how long you want to run it for, that sort of thing. But I also have some options. I can turn it offline, or I can turn it to a clean out. We have two types of offline time. I'm not going to get into exactly what the difference is, but I'm going to turn it to a clean out. It's basically going to shut that machine down for that period of time. So if I save this, watch what happens. My third shift on mixer 1 turns blue to that clean out. And now take a look at what happens. If I try to run something on that shift, it essentially is going to do the same thing. It's just going to push it to the next available time. All right. Okay, pretty simple stuff. So I'm going to minimize my shift schedules for now. I think we've got the idea there. And we're going to look at some of the colors. Okay. I'm going to, we'll keep this job to one color right now. It's green. Notice it's green. And what I've got shown, there's a lot of labels and things I'm putting together. What I've got shown is called the timing segment. We're going to be back in the screen for in a second. Notice when I turn on one of these segments, if I turned on timing and process and hit apply, my operations get divided into two separate segments, a top segment and a bottom segment. In this case, I'm looking at a processing segment, setup and processing. It shows me how long the job's running for. All right, so lots of different things. We're going to turn some of these on in a second, but for now, I just want to focus on timing because that's a very important one for us. You'll notice there it's green at the top for on time, and what we want to look for here, I'm going to just run a little scenario here. We want to look for late and we want to look for capacity bottlenecks. These are interesting. So when I click on a job in Plant Together, I immediately can see, based on some vertical lines in the Gantt, I can see when the job is due. What's cool is I know the job is due at midnight on the 23rd, right? At the start of the day on the 24th. So I know that this operation needs to be completed by then. If I click on my mixing op, Plant Together actually tells me, well, the mixing op needs to be completed by this other red line, the op need date. All right. So watch what happens here. If I move my pelletizer past this red line, it turns red. It's late. Okay. Pretty cool. Tells me it's late. No brainer there, right? Pretty simple. Watch what happens though and notice it's by operation. So my mixing operation is still on time, but my pelletizing operation is late. Watch what happens if I move the mixing operation past when it's due. So the mixing operation turned red and my pelletizing operation turned orange. Now, both of these colors mean that the operations are late. But what's cool about this is that the red signifies what is causing my lateness. So in this case, my mixing step is causing this job to be late. All right, so pretty cool. I can immediately see why the job is late. If I move this back on time again, this turns red. My pelletizing operation is obviously causing my job to be late. That becomes important when we have a lot of data in the schedule and we really load it up. It's easy to identify bottlenecks at that point. I can see like, oh man, my pelletizers are totally bottlenecked. I need to do something about it. So before we load more data up here, I want to show. Well, we'll do it in a second. Just a second. There's some alerts here that we're going to create once I put some more data in, and it'll be a nice exercise. I'll show you how you can customize all the layouts for you. So let's turn a couple other colors on for us here. Let's turn on our attributes. So I put some attributes on these, basically like what type of resin and what color we're going to make the resin. If I apply that, you'll see that the resin is B and the ink is blue. And I just color coded this section to show blue. All right. I'm going to turn my process segment on like we saw before. It tells me how long the operation is going to run for. And I'm going to turn one more on, status. Status is going to tell me if my raw materials to run this job are available or not. So we're going to get some information on material availability. If I see like a beige color, it means all my material sources are planned. It knows where it's getting material from. If I see the purple color, then that means I've got an issue and I've got to go look at it. It's missing some sort of material. All right. So let's save that. And we'll talk about one more thing while we're kind of just have a very simple scenario, and we'll get into all these colors in a second. But notice on the screen here, we've got an orange area. We call that the frozen area of Planetcast, or the frozen zone. And what that does is that helps us lock down our jobs. So, you know, you've got this automated system now, right? You've got this APS system working for you. And you don't want it shuffling all your work all the time around, right? I mean, you've got a job that's due, that's scheduled to start in an hour. You don't want it to automatically shift because you put some other job in there. You know, at least for today, you don't. You want to lock it down. So, so the frozen span helps us do that. And I'll give you an example right now. So if I were to run optimization, all right, we'll get into how this works in a bit, but if I were to run optimization basically schedules my jobs, right? So if I optimize this, it moves my job to the front. If I move my job out and I hit optimize again, it moves it to the front. It wants it to be there, right? But I'm in my frozen zone. I kind of want to lock it down. So some of our options under optimize are, do we use the frozen span or not? And the frozen span is totally customizable. I could have a different frozen span on mixer or pelletizer, that sort of thing. I have it set to 3 days at the moment for both. But now watch what happens. I can still manually move jobs in this area, but when I hit optimize, they stay put. Now, if I was outside of this area, like I'll bring one operation, I'll bring it out here, and then I hit optimize, it moves up to that frozen span. It doesn't go in. So basically, the idea is that as work becomes completed, it moves into the frozen span. There's a nice compress option we have that we can compress work up into the frozen span, which is nice. So as your day progresses, your work becomes complete and the schedule moves along. Your jobs start to creep into the frozen span and become locked down. That way, outside here, your schedule is more fluid. It can react to changes and that sort of thing. So that's the idea behind frozen span. It's a question we get a lot. How do we lock down the schedule? And that's how. That's one of the ways. I'm going to turn it off for the rest of this demo, but just know it's there. All right, so we are going to, let's just flip back for a second onto our